All right. How's it going, everybody? Happy Sunday afternoon. It's Dunskill here. Welcome to my 1 year anniversary show. And I'd like to welcome any newcomers, anybody who hasn't seen this show for the first time. If this is your first one here, thanks for joining. And today I have a extremely special guest, and it is my good friend Bryan from bbmusicproductions. You might hear me during this broadcast refer to him as Dr. Shank, so don't be confused. So please give a warm welcome to Bryan. Bryan, how's it going today, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on here, and congrats, 1 year already, 1 year anniversary.
1 year, yeah, it's gone by pretty quick, man. Channel's grown a little bit in that time, but thanks, man, for joining the broadcast today and being my super special guest, dude. Thanks so much.
Yeah, sure. I'll try not to let you down.
High standards
No
around here.
pressure. Super special guest.
Yeah. Well, the bad thing, or maybe the good thing, is that this StreamYard stuff for the streaming thing, you can see how many viewers are watching, and right now we're at zero.
All right, perfect. That's what I like. Low pressure environments.
Yeah, the bar is pretty low. Bar is pretty low right now, but some people do watch these live streams after the fact,
For
so
sure. For
we,
sure.
we, we still have to watch what we say, I guess, maybe a little bit. But yeah, so yeah, Bryan and I are getting together today. To, we're gonna just kind of just chat, folks. But if anybody is watching, or ends up having a question, please drop one in the comments, and Bryan and I will be happy to answer it. Anything, music, guitar related, life advice. We've got that too. We can sell you an insurance policy. No, no, just kidding. But yeah, so I typically just my preamble here for all my live streams is to chill up a little bit first and ask people to like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and welcome to. Oh, hey, Quentin's here. Hey, buddy. Uh, Welcome to the chat, Quentin, and to the live stream. Um, and we've got 2 viewers now. That's awesome. So yeah, please like and subscribe. Also, if you want to support the channel, another way you can do that is just by listening to the Densko music stuff on Spotify or Apple iTunes. My music is available on Bandcamp as well. I've sold a total of 2 records. One I bought myself, and the other one my good friend here, Bryan, has got for me. So, Bryan, thanks so much for supporting the independent music thing.
Yeah, great music, man.
Yeah, thanks, dude. And I guess that's a good way to kind of lead into our discussion. Bryan and I are just going to ramble a bit about kind of how we know a little bit about how we know each other, and sort of where the audience here might know Bryan from. And that's because Bryan's recorded, I can't remember, dude, if it's 2 or 3. It was Face Puller, Slinky Pinky, and I can't remember if there's a third one that you did for. Oh, you're doing Cosmic Eye for Hello Companion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So Bryan has multiple levels of talent and skill and ability at different levels. One of them being super duper mixing engineer type guy. So Bryan, what was it like? What's it like? How do you find recording, producing, and maybe you can talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you're working on your own projects.
Yeah. No worries. No worries. Actually, even before we get into that, it's funny because I
Yeah.
was trying to think. I'm like, when's the first time that I met Dennis? When's the first time we met? I think it was like back when I was working at Long McQuaid, and you came in as you were a customer, and you were playing with our buddy Matt Sullivan,
That's right.
right? In Burning City.
That's right, man. That
Is
goes.
that it?
Yeah, that's decades ago. Yeah. So
And
yeah.
I remember
Mhm.
getting called over to your place because I'd studied like audio engineering at Harris Institute, which was in like Toronto,
Yep.
and got the job along with Quaid. And then you guys were recording. I don't know if it was an EP or a record or trying to do a couple tracks, but I remember going over to just like a home setup. You guys were were cutting something, and I came in to try to, help you guys out, give you guys some advice on, like, I think it was like miking up the kit or something like that. And
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think we were using like an early version of Pro Tools back then. Um, oh, Quentin's got a question here. We can jump to after you finish there, Brian. But Quentin's got a question. There's only 12 notes in the entire musical scale. How long before I learn them all? Probably a while.
yeah, I still don't know all of them.
Yeah.
You know, I still get confused. Is there an H? Is there no H? I
Yeah.
don't know.
I keep hearing these weird notes in Frank Zappa music, and I don't think they belong in any scale. But yeah, so yeah, Brian, as we mentioned, Brian's gone to school, is still doing school stuff and increasing his genius level Super Saiyan levels on other stuff he's working on. But yeah, back in the day, yeah, we met through our friend Matt, who we call Uncle Junior Beefcake. Nobody really has like real names in my crew and in my circle of friends. We just go by nicknames usually. But yeah, and we had a really primitive Pro Tools setup. We were set up in our buddy's house with our stuff, and Brian came by to help produce and get some recording done with us. And then that was, yeah, back in the Burning City days. And then we just kept in touch, and eventually into the 90s days. And when you came in to
Yeah.
play guitar and sing for us there, yeah. So yeah, sorry, Brian, you were saying,
Yeah. No worries. Yeah, I was trying to think about, how we first met,
yeah.
but yeah, now at the moment I'm working on a couple projects. So that tune for you guys for that tune that I've been
Mm.
doing and mixing for you guys. And then I've been working on a couple of songs with a good friend of mine, Dave McKeithrin, who is in a band called the Warp 45s, which is like a based out of Toronto band that I also played in. So we're doing a couple tunes, doing some co-writes, and of course, like the pandemic started, and I feel like just home recording just kind of like skyrocketed at the beginning of that, because that was that's your option. um, so we've been working on a couple tunes together that I've been, mostly recording in my apartment with like my setup, and then our other good buddy Mark Ansara has been playing some drums on that one.
Nice. Yeah, shout out to Mark, for those that may know Mark. Mark is also the drummer on a bunch of my tracks too.
Yeah, great player, great, fantastic player,
Yeah,
great dude.
yeah, absolutely one of the best.
So I've been working on a couple tunes that I'm trying to kind of finish up. I have a buddy that I met through. Um, there's this kind of online academy with like Warren Hewart. I don't know if you've heard of Warren Hewart. It's called Produce Like a Pro Academy.
Oh,
So
right,
I
yeah.
kind of joined that a couple years back, and it's really cool. They have a bunch of like mixing breakdown videos, and you get to access a whole bunch of multi tracks that you can kind of practice on. So I met a couple of people through there who have hooked me up with a fiddle player in Nashville. So I'm trying to wait to get that person to lay down some tracks. I can play a lot of different stringed instruments, but fiddle is definitely not one of them. So you need to be realistic about what you need to do yourself and outsource.
Yeah, as Dirty Harry once said, a man's got to know his limitations.
Exactly, and I definitely have some good insight into my limitations playing fiddle. So yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, yeah, sometimes outsourcing is the way to go.
Yeah. So I've been up to that, and a good friend of mine, my buddy Joshua Denny Keys, he is recording an album right now, so I'm mixing that album for him as well. And just very eclectic, just kind of all over the place. I set him up with a recording setup in his house, a lot of like MIDI instruments that he can mess around with. So there's like, there's country tunes, but there's also kind of more symphonic sounding things as well, which is a lot of fun to, be involved in like different genres as well.
That's really cool, man. Like, Oh, one thing I've always wondered about producers and producing and engineering and all that, Brian, because you're obviously a musician with super great chops and your own musical preferences too. But do you find it easy to kind of separate the musician, like what you like and what you're listening for, compared to like what the tune or the project needs? How easy is that, or what's that like?
Yeah, yeah, it's a good question. I think it's definitely there's more comfortability in kind of working on, maybe more like, folk, roots, acoustic based music, like rock, country. Like I haven't really worked too much on like hardcore metal,
Yeah.
or like hip hop, R&B.
Any EDM or K-pop?
Not not yet, not for a long time, not for a long time.
I
Um,
always pick on those two genres for
the
some reason.
EDM. You know what?
Mhm.
It's tough. It's like one of like the hardest things to kinda get right when you're starting to do mixing is like the bottom end.
Mhm.
It's like the low end, and it's hard to judge because, your room might not be perfect, so it's either exaggerating or underrepresenting certain frequencies that you end up compensating for, in the mix process. And kind of like the lower the frequency goes, the
Mhm.
more like kind of sound absorption and treatment that you need in a room. So some of
Sure.
those genres like EDM where you're having frequencies down to like 30, 25 hertz, like really low
Like sub bass kind of levels.
sub bass. It's
Mhm.
so difficult um,
Mhm.
to kind of judge that. So I think that would be like I would be, open to trying it, but that's where you might wanna really bring in, a good mastering engineer that you
Right.
have a good relationship with, that has a really highly tuned room, that you can kinda send over and be like, "Hey, can you check out the bottom of this? You
Yeah.
know, I can't objectively kind of, assess this, it's too much."
Yeah, I mean, I and you could probably answer this way better than I could, Brian, but it feels to me like depending on the style of music, there's gonna be different sounds associated with it, and therefore different techniques required for kind of producing and engineering.
Yeah.
Like in a case of say like EDM, or I don't know, broad spectrum range music. Like I don't even know if having a good set of reference monitors or like would help. Like because like they're not dealing so much with acoustic based sounds in a case like that. So I could see that
Yeah.
having its own set of challenges to produce. I don't.
Yeah. It's, another thing, it's like, are you producing it? Are you mixing it?
That's
That's
true.
another kind of, like, big difference as well. It's like to,
To
like,
difference.
mix something like EDM or, like, metal or something like that would be a
Mhm.
lot different than, you know, producing it and really being involved with the, arranging of the different instruments and, the structure of the tune. Where, like, something like, metal or EDM, if as long as a person gave you like a good reference, be like, "Here,
Mhm.
this is what I'm kinda going for."
Yeah.
There's no reason why someone couldn't, mix a folk record and then mix an EDM and then a metal record as long as they
Yeah.
have a good kind of, like, idea of, like, "This is what I want it to sound like,"
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely, yeah. Like being like do it all like 'cause for those that don't know, Bry also does his own music and plays and all that. And there's a tendency, I think, for me anyway, when I'm working on stuff at home, I tend to sort of have the song and the guitar sounds and the way I want it mixed and engineered sort of all done at once. But those are actually, completely separate jobs. Like,
Mhm.
like there's, actual music, the artistry side of it, and that's where you're getting your own sounds and tones. But then you have to put on your producer hat and realize like, hey, is that guitar sound totally appropriate? I find sometimes like where I start from is like usually a guitar sound, but by the
Yeah.
time that guitar sound starts the song or whatever, or starts the mood and sets the tone. However, by the time I get to mixing or recording that guitar sound, I've got to strip out like all kinds of the detail and information about it. And like when so when you listen to it isolated,
Yeah.
it sounds kind of assy in a way. um, but that it's those are all. I think you made a good point, Brian. Like if you're mixing, that's different than producing, than engineering, than mastering. Those are all
Mhm.
separate stages of the process. Where do you have fun in that soup, Brian? What's your favorite part of it?
There's different, there's pros, there's things that I like about all parts of the process.
Hmm.
Like it is nice it's also nice to have a variety, So for myself, when I'm working on a song, for me, I'm either writing the song by myself or writing with a different songwriter. And then I have to think about, okay, what's the arrangement going to be? Who can I get to play these different things? Then then you have to, so much like behind the scenes editing that has to be done. And then you finally get onto like the mix stage,
Right.
so I love sitting in a room and writing with other people.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things to do. But it is nice also, um, like for this album I'm doing for my friend Josh, it's pretty much, I still have to do some editing, but he's a great arranger, great songwriter. Everything sounds great. And then I get to bring everything up, have
Wow.
fun with my outboard gear, and like I don't have to worry about writing the song or,
Hmm.
performing on it. And you can kind of just focus on that one thing, which is fun. It's refreshing when you've had to like do everything for another tune, and then a song comes in. It's like, I just have to mix this.
Yeah.
That's all I have to do, and it's kind of yeah, it's fun because those other, you know, there's so many decisions that are made from when you start writing a song to the final mastering process.
Yep.
And, it's nice when you kind of get to skip some of those decisions sometimes. These decisions are made,
Yep.
song's written, it's arranged. I just get to add that extra kinda 20% and bring this all together,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
I was man, I read in an article, and I think it was George Martin that said something like, he really liked producing because it was just like trying to capture, the image, the song and the idea. Um, I for me, the start point is always really tricky, and it's nice when you come in and the song's already there, that the start point and all those heavy calls, heavy decisions have been made. For me, it usually starts with the riff, but then sort of the next stage, I guess, in the recording thing, for me is, I guess, picking good mics and getting a good capture. Um, where where's your start point, Brian? Like where for you, like, okay, you've got all the songs and stuff like that. Do you start with mics, or like more general concepts? Where do you grab
Um,
for gear first, or grab a notebook?
like in the kind of like more of like the
Yeah.
writing process?
Yeah, let's say you're just the mixer, or the kind of your producer slash ready to capture the wild beast that of a song.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Where do you kick things off
I
when
guess the most important part of that, like, if you had, if I had like a band come in and say, "Hey, we want to do like, let's do a tune. We have this tune." I want to hear the latest, kind of like off the floor.
Mhm.
take of that song. It's like, where is it right now?
Mhm.
What does it sound like? And really get a good idea of like, what does this band sound like playing together in a
Right.
room?
Mhm.
Because ultimately, depending on the style of music, but I love that idea of this is a band, this is the way they sound in a room. How do we recreate this? Um, with the luxuries of modern technology, like, if someone messes up a note here, we can kind of like fix that, because recording is kind of like, it's a microscope. You're under a
Oh, yeah.
microscope. You know, everything is being scrutinized a lot differently than it would be a live performance. And it comes and it goes, where, a recording, as much as there might be like purists who say like, no, it should just be, live off the floor to a stereo track and that's it. We're under a microscope.
Mhm.
You want to make sure that everything sounds good, but trying to, I guess, go with that basic concept of, when I'm listening to this record, does it sound like this band is playing as a band in the room together? Um, that's
Yeah.
not always it's not always realistic. It's not always possible, but if you have that as your, kind of like target,
Yeah, like a
a
benchmark
lot
sort
of
of.
the times.
Yeah, there's always that philosophical debate, like you mentioned, of like, capturing the live essence of the band and getting it, live and raw off the floor, capturing that energy in a bottle, warts and all, right?
Mhm.
Imperfections at all. And that's a fun way to record. I think that's one way to do things. Works for some people, and maybe
Yeah.
certain types of projects and sounds. But I kind of favor the, like, when I'm doing it, doing my own stuff. I always joke about it with my wife. It's like I'm building something by the microsecond. It's like I'll play the same lick or same chord part, like 50,000 times, just so that it sits and it's played perfectly. Because the way I think of it is, once you put it out there, once it's recorded, it's forever.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as people hear it, and
Yeah.
and
It's
that's
not like someone at hearing you play at a bar who's had a couple of drinks, who's not
yeah,
gonna be able to,
yeah,
remember it too much the next day. It's like, no, it's here. You can press record and turn it
mhm,
up and put on your headphones and listen to it as much and as closely as you want.
yeah, absolutely. We're up to 5 whole viewers, which is my highest viewership ever. So thanks everybody for
All
joining
right.
in today. It's probably got something to do with our awesome guest here, who is my pal Brian. So for folks that are just tuning in, Brian and I known each other for quite some time. We've played in Brian's produced my tracks, and we played in our old cover band together, the Ninos. Um, we can maybe take a little walk, Brian, down some of the memory lane path, because Brian is actually also, on top of his other credentials as far as mixing and producing, Brian's also like schooled in jazz, and a disgustingly good guitar player who taught me a whole bunch of stuff, got me started working on kind of playing over changes and things like that. So Brian, like, I know you're mostly doing a lot of production and stuff and mixing, but you playing a lot of guitar these days as well?
I feel like you got to give me some lessons and teach me those things that I taught you, because I'm telling jazz, like, I love jazz, but it's one of those things that you gotta, it's a couple hours every day if you want to keep up those chops.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I've been playing mostly. I play, where is it? This guy right over here, this Martin, this acoustic guitar over here,
Ooh, very nice.
which I've had for a while. And I've been doing a lot of the, I guess, playing more to write
Hmm.
than maybe playing, exercises, like playing to like accompany. So I've been working on some new tunes, and strumming a lot of open C chords, you know,
So,
which is just it's nice to just play some C chords every once in a while, you know. It doesn't
yeah,
have to be too fancy.
they're just
Um,
nice. Yeah, they're just a nice, perfectly harmonic package. Those
yeah.
C chord songwriter chords.
Exactly, exactly. But one of the cool things about, I guess, like, having that background and going through that training, even though I've, like, especially, like, in terms of, like, dexterity, I've lost a lot
Hmm.
of it because it's like anything. It's like going to the gym. If you stop going to the gym, you're not gonna be able to keep it up as much. But, the theory, being able to, you're playing a C chord or a G chord, but then, you're able to pick a chord that's slightly outside, like a borrowed chord,
Right.
from some other, like, scale. And, how can you take, these kind of like campfire chords that we talk to, describe them
Yeah.
as, and add in like a little something that sounds,
Mhm.
like, for the better lack of a better word, like jazzy,
Yeah.
to kinda inject some sort of, like, novelty a little bit, make it a little bit different.
Yeah. Absolutely. Spruce it up a bit. I mean, nothing wrong with your good old garden variety C chord, but if you add, say, a ninth on that, or a major seventh, you get something a little spicier. And I think what for a lot of folks, a lot of guitar players, sometimes the hang up is like the thing with the theory. You learn it all at school. It's all intimidating, and it's a lot of times it's focused just on the jazz stuff. But you can take all that beautiful music vocabulary and knowledge and apply it to almost literally any style, like just what you're talking about, doing something like a, different type of C chord or an inversion, or borrowing another chord and harmonizing with different notes. That's all just stuff in the toolkit that, musical toolkit that you can pull out. And, but I think you hit it right on the head as far as doing the constant application and practicing of that. That's like I think you hit it on the head when you said it's like going to the gym, because like doing that constant applying of scales and chords and harmony and all that stuff
Mhm.
in a jazz context, like, whew, I've been working on this one jazz course for like probably like 3 years, like this that I got through True Fire, and it's just some basic stuff, but like it hurts my head, like not so much the fingers, but
Yeah, it's definitely it's a physical but also a very cognitive workout as well.
yeah, and it's
You know?
and when you're using that stuff, it's cognitive, it's physical, but it's also like tasteful. Seeing how bands like the Beatles would throw in those weird chords, and what could be considered straight ahead, diatonic songs, and
Mhm.
throwing in these fancy chords, like just the intro chord to Hard Day's Night. Like for years, guitarists were trying to figure out what the heck that chord was, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I remember hearing,
mhm,
like, this is all hearsay, I don't
yeah,
remember exactly, but, I remember hearing, like, back in their, what was it, like, I guess, like, Hamburg days,
mhm.
where they used to play over there, they did a lot of, like, jazz standards. I remember hearing that at some point, and that kind of, trickled down into some of their, like, writing and sensibility,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they could do it many different ways. Like they could be sophisticated, they could be simple, they could be beautiful, they could be hard rock, and um, but the fact that they, like there's a lot of hype about, especially these days with the Beatles with the Get Back thing, which I haven't seen yet, and I'm going to. Have you seen it already?
I started watching a
Yeah,
little a little bit of it, which
yeah,
is pretty cool, but I'll admit I just wanna fast forward into seeing them in the studio and try to pick
mhm,
up some tricks and
yeah. I'm same here. Yeah. I'm gonna have a sit down and just marathon it, and just soak it all in. I subscribed to Disney Plus just so I could watch the damn thing, but just
nice.
just to see the genius at work. But yeah, what I was going to say was just the fact that those guys could draw in all those different influences and the use of the chord vocabulary that they had was just amazing. Square Telecaster here has a comment saying that it would be nice to be able to play what is in my head. And yeah, that's kind of one of the highest ideals of or goals, I would say, in playing music, especially those crazy jazz guys. Because you look at a player like, say, like Wes Montgomery. I
Oh,
don't
I
think
love Wes.
he knew a lick of theory, and to be honest, maybe a bit, but that's just playing with your ear, using your ears and your heart.
Mhm.
You know, like, do you have any like super favorite guitar player guys, Brian?
Oh, man,
That
like, while you're on the topic, Wes Montgomery is just, a monster. I think
yeah,
that was one of the first jazz guitarists that I really got into. I remember I was taking some lessons when I was at Long McQuaid with a couple of people over there,
yeah,
and, I remember someone introduced me to Smoking to the Half Note, Wes
mm,
Montgomery, and what was it? No Blues.
right,
Just crazy, just
yeah,
crazy. But I guess, like, more contemporary, I love Gillian Welch?
yes, and
Gillian Welch and
David
David
Rollins,
Rollins?
yeah, David Rollins, yeah,
David Rollins, like, that
yeah,
just style of
yeah,
playing where, he's not I'm sure he can play very, very quickly,
mhm.
he's a fantastic player, but, it's that kind of, like, melodic economy,
Oh, big time,
He does not have to play 100 notes if he can play 6
yep,
and get, very, like, concise
yep,
playing. I absolutely, I love him, and then also kind of, like, different, but in, like, a similar, I guess brought up in a similar tradition is, like, the Milk Carton Kids?
haven't heard of them, no,
No,
no, it's new to me,
they're a duo, and
mhm,
they're kind of like, admittedly, by themselves, like, kind of a duo, a bit of like a Simon and Garfunkel thing.
cool, very cool,
Um, and I forget their names, but the guy who plays most of the leads is
mhm,
just plays the tastiest stuff, and kind of in that vein of like David Rollins. And, back to what we were talking about before, it's like, he's
mhm,
borrowing some melodies, imposing some
mhm,
things over, like, a standard chord progression, that really creates it's like, at the end of the day, it's like that tension
yep.
and release, The most interesting music out there is gonna have those moments of tension and then resolving that tension, and, those guys just are, especially David Rollins, just like a master of that stuff.
Oh, big time. The whole press and release and keep the playing surprising. Just being so tasteful, with your note choice, rhythmically, melodically, harmonically. Yeah, in the Rick Beato interview with Sting, I think it was also quoted in another interview he just ran with another huge musician. Was just about keeping surprises going, right? Like staying within, playing inside, playing outside, and knowing when and where to kind of go in and out just to serve the song, right? As long as it kind of
Mhm.
serves the melody that and doesn't distract or anything like that. Guys like Rawlings are a master of that. And yeah, I'm definitely gonna, folks. You should check out David Rawlings and Gillian Welch, as well as what were they called, Brad? The Milk Carton Kids.
Milk Carton Kids, yeah,
Yeah.
there's this particular YouTube video, I think it's Snake Eyes, I think it was like a song for,
Hmm.
kind of written for a movie, and there's this, YouTube video of them doing that, like, live, just the 2 of them, and
Yeah.
it's just amazing, it's so cool.
Yeah. That's wicked. Yeah. Yeah. It just came into my head. It was the guy that Rick Beato interviewed and said he likes the musical surprises is Tommy Emmanuel, who's one of my all-time favorite guitar players. And yeah, the ability to stay in and out of of a tune is definitely takes a lot of practice, a lot of ear training. you kind of have to know a little bit you have to understand music at a couple different levels, I find. But some guys keep it real simple, and that's another way to do it too. I still really, these days the YouTube and stuff like that, there's a plethora of tons of great guitar players out there. It seems like we're in a real golden age right now. Do you find yourself probably still getting attracted to music that's got great players with it, or is it just kind of like, if there's you hear about a band with, say, like a David Rollins in it, does that turn you on still, or?
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
those and songs too, just
yeah,
the actual songwriting and the story,
yeah.
the story that they tell.
Hmm.
And like the lyrics too. Like admittedly, like I don't, I have some friends who are just prolific songwriters and fantastic lyricists, and
Hmm.
I'm always envious of them. So that's something I'm drawn to too. It's like, what is you know, what's the song? And then, you dress it up and you
Hmm.
add extra instruments and you do the arranging. But, if you take away all the other stuff, and this isn't the case for all styles of music, but
Hmm.
if you can take that song and play it on an acoustic guitar and it still sounds good and it holds on its own, then it's like that's probably a pretty good song.
Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good test for sure. Um, yeah, a good song will stand on its own merits. Hopefully, regardless of how it's played, and then all the stuff that you add on to it is kind of icing on the cake.
Mhm.
Like, I know for me personally, because I like all different kinds of music. I like really composed stuff and I like improvised stuff. But
Sure.
when it comes to the really composed stuff, like the song and the chords and all that, and the words, all that really tricky stuff's got to come together. But I think it's also, I just love it when you don't even notice the band. The band is just so good and they play all the right stuff at the right time. Like I've been listening to a lot of Wings recently for some reason, and just every lick and everything is played expertly, and McCartney's backup band is just monstrous. Same with some live footage I saw of Prince's backup band just recently. They did a cover of Play That Funky Music, where Prince gets thrown a guitar and just rips a solo. Uh, Blackwell at the beginning of it is kind of caught off guard. He's trying to get like the dunk dunk big snare hit at the beginning, but he didn't have his snare on. So you see him like stick the drumstick in his mouth, snap the snare on, and then hit it. And it's mind blowing how quick he does it. But it's like, man, these even pros kind of screw up every once in a while.
Oh, for
That
sure.
was good to see. But yeah, saw that video, and I was just like, these backup bands, like the songs are so great. Another band I'll big up is a band called Zeus from Toronto. Write such really great songs and have such great expert. Like they could probably play anything, I would imagine. Like the musicianship is so good, but they really stick to these really pretty, rock pop type melodies that remind me a lot of Wings. Like a lot of the way that
Mm.
stuff is arranged, where you'll hear a nice melody and all that, and a great line that you can whistle to. But then there'll be all these like nice little sub parts beneath all these little cool, tasty guitar licks and piano licks and stuff. Um, yeah, Square Telecaster here mentions, yeah, if you can whistle the melody or a solo, that's usually a good sign.
Yeah.
If the song's
Yeah,
got
100%.
a good head and a melody line kind of thing, that's a big hook. You
Yeah.
know,
Or
yeah,
even those band like Weezer's, the classic Weezer solo that's, the melody of
a
either a
vocal.
verse or a chorus or something like that. Like,
Yeah,
they just sound awesome, they're great, and they'll, like, double track it because it's a simpler melody, so it's not,
yeah,
it's easier to do that, but, those are still some of my, favorite solos, just some of those, like, it was the verse melody, but great tone and,
yeah,
sounds really cool.
yeah. I've always I have to admit, I've had quite a bit of respect for Weezer, because they're a very guitar centric band.
Oh, for
Well,
sure.
like they're playing big honking guitar sounds throughout, a lot of their material, and they're keeping the guitar kind of, first and foremost in their playing. Which, I mean, I like guitar music. To be honest, my favorite band in the world right now is a band called the Bad Plus, and they don't have a guitar player in their band. But yeah, they're just in terms of the arranging and the songs that they have, and the way the piano, bass, and drums mix together, the interplay. They're sort of like if Led Zeppelin was like a jazz band. So yeah, I'll big up the Bad Plus for sure as well.
Nice.
Yeah, they're really cool. Obviously live shows aren't happening, Brian, but if there's a band or a performer or artist coming up, available alive, walking the earth, is there anybody that you'd want to see live that you're kind of hoping that kind of comes back?
That's a tough one. That is a tough one. I guess the first thing that comes into comes into my mind, just because I've never really seen him before, and he played. I guess that was last week. Gordon Lightfoot played Massey Hall.
Right.
I think he played 3 nights in a row.
Something like that. Yeah, I heard about that.
And I would be, there's certain bands I would like to see, but there's also something about seeing performances in certain venues.
Right.
I feel like the older I get, the more picky I am about, like, where I wanna see a band. Like, I'm kind of like, don't get me wrong, I'll go to the Air Canada Centre to see Pearl Jam because 'cause they're not gonna play at the Horseshoe,
That's fair.
you know?
Yeah.
But, I kinda, there's also some venues that I just haven't been to for so long that I love,
Hmm.
like, Massey Hall, or one of my favorite venues, in Toronto's the Dakota Tavern.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Um
I think I've played there. I can't remember.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we played there a couple times and
So
just had a couple great shows,
yeah.
but, there's a great, Toronto-based band called, NQ Arbuckle that, is kinda like some CanCon,
Mhm.
they're fantastic, and
Nice.
seen them at the Dakota a couple times, and it's just, it's a great room. I know it was musician owned. I don't know if that's
Hmm.
still the case, but, I think the Beauties own it or still do? I don't remember.
Yeah.
But, I'd love to just kinda go to the Dakota, catch a show, and they
Yeah.
used to do a bluegrass brunch on Sundays
Oh,
too.
that's pretty cool. Yeah. So like live music, live bluegrass, eh? That's
Yeah, I think so. Like,
mm,
it's not that I don't wanna see the big rock shows, it's just there's something about seeing a band at, like, the Air Canada Centre that I'm like, I like seeing bands or performances in rooms that are more like, "This is a music venue,"
you're right, right.
you know?
Yeah, purpose built, right? It's
Mhm.
instead of a restaurant with music in the back kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I
How
would
about
say
you?
yeah. Well, I was thinking the same thing as you are. I'm more focused, maybe being a little pickier now, but more on the venue. Like if there's anything like with things hopefully getting back to normal, it's more normal and venues opening up and bands playing again. I kind of want to go to like there's two places that pop into mind. One in Toronto being the Elma Combo that I heard is kind of open or reopening or was under new ownership.
Yeah.
So that's like I've played the Elma Combo one of my first or second shows ever like decades ago in the upstairs room. Um,
Nice.
and obviously Stevie Ray's played there, the Stones, like a bunch of great bands. So that that's one of those Toronto landmark type places that just should just kind of always be there, kind of like the Horseshoe. The other place is generally any place in Hamilton. There's a there's a lot of really cool bars and venues that just downtown Hamilton that are sort of no name. One place I really like like seeing shows at was the Casbah, which
Okay.
a lot of places have closed down and haven't survived the pandemic. I think that place is still open and going, but I've seen great bands there, just like local bands. White Cowbell, Oklahoma played there as a local Toronto legendary band.
Nice, nice, nice.
They're amazing. And yeah, so yeah, just I'd love to go just see some live, musicians. Like, don't have to be anybody famous. Just see people doing the do. One thing probably get out to see is my brother's cover band, because they're out and about doing stuff. So, and they've got a small following of fans. So, you
Cool.
know,
What do they do? What kind of cover band is that?
yeah, I'll give them a plug. They're called the Hit Disturbers, and they pretty much do a whole wide range of tunes. Everything from, I think they do some '60s stuff. Like, I'm pretty sure they do some Beatles, some '70s rock. Right up to the '80s and '90s, as far as I know. And
Nice.
yeah, I've seen them before, and they've now got a new drummer. So hopefully, everything's all working out. And but they're playing a lot, which is a good sign that venues are kind of getting back to having live music again. And my hope is that audiences are hungry, and like with my own cover band, or the new Ninos.
A retro phase.
Retro phase,
I
yeah.
like that name. That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty clever. I can't take any credit for that, because picking band names is one of the hardest things in the world. That's for sure. But yeah, so there's appetite out there, hopefully for bands and stuff. How about where you are locally? Are you seeing any venues having bands, or is it still kind of locked down?
Not really. We're
Mhm.
talking about kind of trying to get out and maybe to see a couple more bands.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like, cause I'm in Montreal and like
Hmm.
really haven't explored the venues
Hmm.
around here as much as I would have if, the last couple of years didn't happen. But there's definitely, I want to make an effort to kind of go check out some more local bands. I guess it's like in Toronto because I grew up, Toronto.
Yeah.
I know where to go. We're in Montreal. I'm sure it's only a Google search away, but
Hmm.
I gotta kind of get out there and then maybe try to play some shows. I think I played a show or two before the pandemic in this really cool what was it called? It's called like Yellow Door.
Oh,
And right near like kind of McGill, and they call it like the student ghetto.
right.
And my buddy Dave McKeithrin,
Hmm.
came in and we played like a small show there. And I forget who played there, but like a bunch of these big kind of '60s folk acts. It was kind of like one of the coffee houses
Hmm.
that they used to play. So there was a lot of history in that place that
Yep.
it was really cool. And it was one of those shows too. I don't know if you've ever played or been to like a house concert.
I think, didn't you and I go to one
Did we? Maybe.
in Toronto?
Yeah, yeah, maybe we did.
It was at somebody's house, and we saw this crazy jazz guitar player guy.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, that
sorry.
sounds familiar.
Yeah, you were saying?
Um, but kind of
Hmm.
shows like that, I guess, we're talking about what shows do you want to go see, but also kind of like the shows I'd want to play as
Yeah.
well. And there's something about playing, a house concert where, again, me and my buddy Dave played a couple of them where,
Hmm.
there's only, you're not playing in front of 3,000 people. There's 30, 40 people, maybe
Right.
50 people. But you start playing and every single person is silent and nobody's on their phone and
Wow.
everyone's looking at you and you could hear a pin drop and you're playing unamplified, there's no mics.
Right.
So you're balancing yourself in a room and there's something about playing that type of show that I just like more. And we played some big festival stages and they were cool. That's a thing. But I'd almost rather play to 30 people dead silent in a room listening contently. And like when you're playing, because you're not playing through a mic, and just the dynamic range that you're able to cover, because you can play a little soft
Yeah, you've got all the room there.
note.
Mhm.
There's something really cool about that. And that's more in the kind of like the folk kind of singer-songwriter world, that's like doesn't work with all types of music, I guess. But I really miss playing those
Yeah.
types of shows,
That sounds super fun and also terrifying.
Yeah.
It's like you're just out there, you can't hide behind a big loud amplifier or something
Oh,
like
man,
that.
especially when you're like, "Okay, okay, take it away, Bryan," and then I'm
Yeah.
there with, like, a mandolin that's not my, like,
Not
main
your
instrument. I'm like, "Shit, I got a solo on this mandolin, and there's 30 people."
yeah,
Oh, it's only 30 people, but
yeah,
it's dead silent,
yeah,
and,
no pressure, no
you're
pressure at
not
all.
hiding behind, like a tube screamer or anything
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, the nice
So
delay pedal or
yeah,
something. Oh,
yeah.
man. My buddy John here is just was commenting on when we're talking about venues, and he's mentioned Massey Hall hands down. I have to agree. That I've seen a few performances there. And John says he's a guitar guy, but he appreciates Tegan and Sarah for their harmonies and song personship. Is that lame? Absolutely not. No, they're great. It's not all about the guitar. It's, like we were talking earlier, it's about, writing good songs and playing them well. We mentioned Gillian Welch and David Rawlings is a great act. Larkin Poe is another amazing act, but they can actually play the shit out of their instruments too whenever they want. Yeah, the bluegrass and like mellower sort of folk side of things, like there's tons of amazing musicianship in like good luck trying to play a mandolin. I can't get my sausage fingers on those tiny little frets. But yeah, like Brian, like you said, there's a whole level of sort of intimacy and able to connect with your audience when you're playing those kinds of
Mhm.
shows. A little more intimate.
Yeah, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
different, none of these things are obviously, better or worse than the other. It's just kind of a different it's a different experience, and something that I've really gotten into in that kind of tradition of, again, in, more like folk
Hmm.
singer-songwriter music where, the songwriter takes a minute or 2 minutes and tells the story of the song before they play it as like, for context,
Right.
which is really cool. And I guess like to John's comment as well, like the harmonies, like I live for harmonies. If I could like,
Hmm.
I've been playing guitar since I was like, who knows, 8
Hmm.
years old or something like that. But if I could only do one thing, like you can play guitar, you can, you pick one thing. It's like I would pick harmonies if I could only do one thing. Because it's such a, I don't know, it's a cool thing. I've played tons of shows where I was like the solo guitar player, kind of like front man of a band.
Yep.
But that job of being kind of like the auxiliary player where you're playing like guitar and backing up a songwriter and doing the harmonies, that's my favorite thing to do. I love doing that stuff.
Yeah. Well, you're amazing at it. From our Ninos days, Brian used to do our backup vocals and all kinds of different stuff for us. And yeah, you can see in the audience like when they hear the harmonies, like their eyes just like whoa, start paying attention right away, right? Yeah, Squire Telecaster says vocal harmonies can fill a room like nothing else.
Yeah.
Totally agree, especially when you get the three part going. It's like, you know, Beach Boys were amazing at that stuff. And
Mhm.
I was listening to Pet Sounds the other day. And it's just like, wow, it's mesmerizing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, of all the skills things, I agree with you. It's nice being able to shred, but harmonies, boy. That type.
There's something about it. There's something about, singing with other people in the room and, like, the body of the guitar is your chest cavity, and
That's right.
that's the thing that's resonating, and to be it sing in tune with a group of people like that, there's something about that, it just, it's hard to get that feeling, any other way.
Yeah, it totally is, and it's like one of those. I would argue that's one of having a good harmony in a song is like, is it a necessary component or is it an ornament? Like, is it an auxiliary or is it necessary? And I think in some songs it's absolutely necessary.
Mm.
Because yeah, and it's you obviously need another person in your unit to be able to pull that off live, but yeah, and I don't know, for folks that are watching that who may or may not necessarily play or sing. And Brian, maybe I don't know if you agree with this. I'd love to hear what you think. But singing is one thing, playing is something else. But doing them together at the same time is its own category. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Brian? Is it its own skill, or is it just like I can sing, I can play guitar, I can walk down the street and chew gum, or
I don't know. It's strange, because I guess some people start off in different ways. Some people start off just singing and then they learn how to play guitar later, or some people start off just playing guitar and then they learn how to do it later. But I guess for me, it just kind of, they both started at the same time.
mm-hmm.
And I remember pulling out, like, my dad's old, like, nylon string guitar, which I still
Right.
have. It looks like, Willie Nelson's, like, trigger. That thing is, like, my pinky's, like, worn through the top of that thing.
Oh wow.
Um, but I remember I was like, I guess for me, when I learned guitar, it was more to be able to, like, play a song and accompany
Mm,
myself singing. Like, I remember in grade 5 listening to, like, Green Day and trying to learn those songs.
yeah.
So, for me, I never really knew anything different. They always went together.
Yeah.
Um, but something I do remember being tricky was learning how to sing harmony
Yeah.
and playing guitar.
Mm-hmm.
Because the tendency, at least for me, was, like, to sing the melody.
Right.
You know? And then you're playing guitar and then you have to think like, "Okay, I have to sing this particular note." And, I remember when we used to play, there was this place called the Cherry Hill Restaurant,
Oh
the
yeah.
Duke of Marlborough. Remember the
That's right.
Duke in
Yeah.
Mississauga?
Oh
And,
yes.
my buddy Mike Silva
Hmm.
used to do, the jam night there, and we would kinda alternate every second Wednesday. I'd host the jam night, and then he would host it the next week, and we'd both go to each other's, and I remember that's when I learned how to sing
Harmony.
harmony, trying to back him up, and
Mm.
it was a pain in the ass at the beginning. It was really tough, and then, I don't know, you almost have to, like, rewire your brain in a way.
Yeah.
It's a juggling act.
It's tricky because yeah, you can hear the main melody line, but you have to sort of go a little bit outside it, or pick your interval, and you're playing, and it's sort of like riding a bicycle and shooting an arrow. I think like
Yeah.
it's it's tricky. And like along the way, if you learn that, you're actually learning a bit of music theory and harmony. Yeah, John's got a comment about Van Halen harmonies. Wow, like yeah, I have to agree. Michael Anthony and Eddie's backups on David Lee's uh, vocals were just amazing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's one of those things you learn along the way. Like learning harmonies and vocal harmonies sort of blew open my mind a bit. Learning guitar, and it really, and music in general, it didn't, because you can get guitar down, but then learning music and other things that kind of feed back into your guitar playing is huge. um One tip that I had, Brian, maybe you have one too, is when I was coming up and learning guitar, it took me a while to to get into kind of sort of the more abstract theories and concepts of music, and basically learning how to superimpose chords, and what kind of more about chord voicings and how to stack intervals and
Mhm.
things like that. And where I got that from was from picking up piano. So my tip, and keyboard. So my big tip is, that helped me kind of elevate, even how I play guitar, because then I started getting into all these cool voicings on guitar that I picked up from the keyboard,
Yeah.
and how to mix and match, different note choices and intervals and things like that. So that's my big tip. If you, because on a keyboard and piano, like, the notes are laid out very logically, and like, guitar's a mess to try and
There's
figure out.
one middle C on a piano,
Yeah, instead of a
versus like
hundred.
3 or 4 on a guitar, depending on the fretboard.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, Brad, do you have any, like, learning other instruments and becoming one of these instrumental jerks, that can play it all? Yeah. Do you have any similar tips or any suggestions for folks that are maybe getting into music, or anything that can add to your, guitar playing, whether it's like, listening to other kinds of music or anything?
Yeah, well, I like that. I like this idea of piano. Like, if you are going, doesn't matter what you play, like
Hmm.
saxophone, guitar, even drums, whatever your bass, doesn't matter what you're playing. I think the piano is just such a great way to kind of like learn and better like visualize music theory,
Yeah.
if you want to kind of start there. And even something like harmonies, you can practice singing if you can play a C chord on a piano, and then you can practice singing like the third
Hmm.
and the fifth of that chord, and just kind of get an idea of what that sounds like, and really like hold the note for a while,
Yeah.
and kind of almost like observe yourself kind of like tuning to that note. I think any musician, or aspiring musician, should have a keyboard close to them to
Hmm.
reference things, and that's for like, right, that's for harmonies, that's for like arranging. It's just like, I think it's the easiest tool to use, because it's just like it's in front of you.
Hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, definitely, as a composition tool, just visualizing how notes and things fit together and flow together. Keyboard is you can't beat that.
Yeah.
I'm not a good keyboard or piano player, but I learned just enough to fit it into my songs, or take that idea and translate it back onto the guitar. um, and you see a lot of, and so yeah, piano might be intimidating, but you see a lot of guitar players and bass players and other musicians pick it up as a secondary instrument to,
Mhm.
kind of enhance their knowledge and ability. So
And people who, like,
mm,
don't know too much about music, it's like a piano, basically, it looks huge, but really there's only like 12 notes, and
yep,
then you just repeat them 5 or 6 times depending on the piano. But it looks more intimidating than it actually is.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, Brett, I want to thank you, man. We're just at about an hour, and I want to thank you, brother, for joining the live stream today. Typically, at this stage is when I start shilling my music and YouTube channel and other stuff.
Yeah.
One little sneak peek for fans of the channel. As I mentioned earlier, it's my 1 year anniversary. So thanks everybody for tuning in. For fans that have been watching a bit, or also fans of my Facebook page, you might have seen this. So this is a recent acquisition. It's there's a video coming on it. I'm not going to say too much about it yet, other than it's a Gibson Les Paul double cut from the custom shop, and there will be an upcoming video on it. So I want to thank folks for watching that little Instagram post that I had, where I kind of sneak previewed that guitar. There'll be a review on that, and as well as some other equipment reviews coming up. More music is on the way too from Densko Music. Bryan, you're doing some production stuff right now. Is there anything you want to promote or shell out there?
Yeah, maybe if you guys wanna just, check me out on, I guess, like, Instagram is the primary way I kind of, get my stuff out there, music production-wise, so it's just BB Music Productions, which I think you might have down in the, YouTube link.
Hmm.
So yeah, anything, anything music related, like come follow me, hang out. If you're interested in working on a tune or having something mixed or just have questions about anything or want to just chat, then yeah, reach out and let me know.
Well, that's awesome, man. Thanks, dude. And that's folks. That's BB Music Productions on Instagram. Make sure you follow good old Dr. Shank here. And Bryan and I will be collaborating in the future on a whole bunch of different stuff. He's working on some stuff for Hello Companion right now, and I'm just waiting for the right tune to throw back at Bryan. He's really nailed. I think they're my best sounding songs for sure on my album Stringmanship. Plug. Please check that out on Spotify and iTunes, and you can buy it on Bandcamp. I want to thank our viewers. We had some really great viewership today. It's the best I've had in all my live streams. So, folks, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember to please like and subscribe. That's the last time I'll say that. Bryan, thanks so much for showing up today, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been it's been a lot of fun.
It's been one of my favorite live streams. Thanks, Dale. Dale said it was a cool stream. And yeah, man, I had a great time, Bryan. Thanks so much for taking the time this afternoon, brother.
Of course, anytime, man, anytime.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get you back on sometime in the future. And I want to wish everybody a great afternoon and a great day. Bryan, if you want to hang around for 1 second, I'm just gonna do the clickety click thing.
Sure.
All right, take care, everybody.
See you guys.